So, good morning, everyone. And I would like to say good morning, good morning, good morning. There may be some people joining us in your part of the world. It could be afternoon, and one or two where it might even be evening. I was talking to some friends in Singapore last night, and they were planning on coming on. So, look forward to checking.
Yes.
Got some from here as well.
If it's Hawaii, we're 11 hours off, so therefore, nighttime. But also, there's a few people that watch this as a recording. So, just welcome to everybody, whether you're with us live or not.
The fantastic benefits of technology all around the world can tune in either live or after. So let's get our show going. We've got a really fantastic day for everyone today. I'm delighted that after many months, we've got to today. This is a weekly webinar we tend to do. Myself, David Johnson, MD of LEOCrowdfunding, property crowdfunding platform, and Mr. John Corey from Property Fortress. And we put this on really initially in the lockdown just to keep in touch with both fundraisers and investors. And then it's progressed into a bit of education and really just it's a 30-minute touch base informational webinar to bring value to that community is what we try to do. So today is slightly different because today the agenda is 6 announcements. So you've received your social media posts or you've received some WhatsApp messages. I know many of you have been texting me going, what's this all about? What's happening? Well, the next 28 minutes or so, all will be revealed. I'm absolutely delighted after sort of many months of planning, we have arrived at this place. So for those that don't actually know me, just so I can set the scene in terms of the relevance of today. So my personal background is very much in direct sales, marketing. I've been over 20 years now in the world of property investment, buy-to-lets initially, bought and sold about 100 buy-to-lets in the UK, overseas property, high-end development, spent some time out in Asia, marketing UK stock through property agents, and then moved into property crowdfunding. And I really saw that as a culmination of my journey to date. Also recognizing the impact that compliance was having on our market. Outside business, I've traveled over 50 countries in the world, served for the British Army in Iraq, played semi-professional football in Northern Ireland, so quite an interesting journey. Now, I started a property crowdfunding platform back in February 2018, but just before that, November 2016 is an interesting date. And particularly for yourself, John, I was going to put it out to the audience to comment, but I think for time we won't. But there's 2 significant things happened in November 2016. I'll give you an opportunity to point out what they are if you can think.
Well, it's probably when you and I met. How's that for
number one?
Okay. 2016.
There's something significant happened the day before we actually met.
Well, there was that panel discussion. Do you count that the day before, or do you say that's the day we met?
Your memory's beginning to leave you. It was a rather famous
Could
election.
be, I got my hair cut.
There was a rather famous election took place the night before.
Really? Famous or infamous?
Mr. Donald Trump, your president, was elected the night before.
Your president of Americans.
So yes, that's I always remember that I met John Corey for the first time to talk about property crowdfunding the day after Donald Trump was elected. So it's an easy day to remember. So the journey, I'm not going to go through all the slide there. You can see it on the screen. Like all businesses, we've been on a journey, and we arrived at around December last year, where we really needed to take a new direction. We needed some input. We needed certainly some probably strategic input. As well as increasing the team so we could take the business to a new level and a different direction. So having done some deals, having built up a tribe, having been in the market, if you like, earning the scars, we then were able to move on. So 6 announcements today. So drum roll. First one, delighted to announce that as of today, our name changes. We are now called LEOCrowdfunding. So the LEO stands for Learn, Earn, and Own. And our mission is very clear, very simple, to help investors learn while they earn how to own property assets while leveraging the power of the crowd. So this is our new brand, our new reveal, and we're very excited that this is really a relaunch or revamp, certainly a new vision for the company. So that's number one. And I know, John, you're into logos and you like the thoughts that go behind them. Any observations or comments on our new logo?
Well, I particularly like the tail end of the statement, leveraging the power of the crowd. So you can actually work with the crowd to ask questions, to find out answers, to see if there are experts on particular topics, whether it's planning, soil, construction techniques, things like that, tenancy issues. So the whole learning and earning and owning, it really flows well when you can leverage the crowd and you can use the crowd as, these are the people who are investing with me. These are the people who have skin in the game with me on specific deals or across other deals. So it isn't just randomly filling in time, wasting, killing time posting online. This is a proper discussion about investing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. And as we'll see later, education, learning and earning is a very big part of our DNA. So absolutely delighted. Big reveal number one, new logo, and really excited by this sort of brand change. Now, if you do go onto the platform today, you'll see we've obviously revamped it. We've changed the images, we've refreshed it. But this is really just a first step in a process. There are other changes, functionality, even looks and branding that we're going to be doing to the platform over the next couple of weeks. So treat this as a first stage, but you'll see that when you go on now, obviously it's the new name, and you'll be able to have a look there and see some of the new things that haven't been there before. So number two, again, a bit of a drum roll. And I'm delighted to announce a new business partner, a strategic director who is joining me. She's been stealthily sitting in the background there on screen. So welcome to Aisha Ofori. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
No, my pleasure. It's a momentous day, let's say.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So I'm gonna. I know you don't like usually been sort of bigged up, but I'll literally give you a couple of quick introductions. So you're obviously a multi-award-winning real estate investment specialist. You've worked with Morgan Stanley in the real estate investment section. You've worked in Goldman Sachs, where you were a private wealth manager, and you've won a whole bunch of awards, certainly in the last 12 to 18 months. So you've got a high profile within sections of the property world. So yeah, give us a bit about your background and your journey into property.
Yes, thanks, David. So I guess as you briefly alluded to, my background was heavily financial services. I joined Morgan Stanley in, I think it was before the crisis, so sort of back end of 2006, early 2007. I joined in their M&A department as a generalist, but I actually ended up rotating into their real estate investing team. At the time, I wasn't too chuffed about it because I wanted to stay in M&A. But with hindsight, it actually did me quite well, because that was the first place where I really learned how to start modeling real estate, building real estate models in Excel, and sort of cutting my teeth. Little did I know, fast forward, 13 years, this is where I'd be. So it's ironic the way that things work. Was at Morgan Stanley throughout the crisis, literally in the building next door to Lehman Brothers. So it was a very interesting place to be. Also spent some time at business school. I went to London Business School and did their 2-year MBA program. And then off the back of that, I went back into finance, but I joined Goldman Sachs, where I was a wealth advisor to ultra high net wealth individuals. So what that means is that at Goldman Sachs, the minimum account size is $10 million. So on average, our clients would have at least sort of 50 million, typically because you don't give all of your money to one investment firm. And my role was to find clients, to onboard them, to bring in the assets, and then to manage them. I, manage cross-asset class portfolios, so equities, fixed income, private equity, hedge funds, currencies, commodities. But ironically, the asset class that we tended to be quite light on was the real estate. And that was something that sort of stood out to me, because I realized that, as an investment class, real estate for me personally it offers something that a lot of the others don't. And I kind of put my money where my mouth was, as you say, and I started investing in property quite heavily myself with my husband. This was many years ago, built up quite a sizable portfolio. And I say that was sort of my first taste of property investing. And, since then I've never looked back. I left Goldman and went full time into property investing.
Very good, very good.
Because, yeah.
And we mentioned, obviously, you've won a number of awards, because you do have a number of business interests within the world of property, and I've put some of the logos on the screen below. Do you want to maybe just quickly explain the main business interests you have currently?
Yes. So when I left Goldman, the first business I set up was called Axon Property Partners. That was working with high net worth individuals who wanted to invest into residential real estate, predominantly working with having the investors on one side and having developers on the other side who needed capital. And I mentioned that business first because I say that's probably the business which led you and I to join forces, David. Because I realized that effectively what I was doing was crowdfunding, but just at for a different segment of the investor market. Also, what I do is I run 2 property investment communities. One is called Black Property Network, and that's about empowering minority communities, again, through property investing. And the other business that I run is called Propel Network, and that's for women who are either experienced already in property and they're looking to maybe grow what they're doing, go into a different strategy, scale, or they're struggling to find funding, whatever it is. And it's also for women who are new to property. If you've always thought about getting into property investment, but you haven't been quite sure what to do, we're there to provide the sort of education, the guidance, the support, and we're just a great tribe of women. So everything I do is property related. It all kind of ties together. One thing people say to me sometimes is, how on earth do you do so much? My answer to that is, I love to be busy. I've got a 3-year-old, so I'm always on my toes. But everything I do is property related. It's not as if I'm an accountant, a doctor, and a solicitor. So they all sort of tie into one another in various places. And it's really my passion. I love to help people in property.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'm going to be bringing you in later on. We talk about our business strategy. So you'll be back in on that. And again, just so people are clear, you're obviously now a director with LEOCrowdfunding, obviously shareholder as well, and collectively as a partnership, you and I now own and run this business. So great to have you on board after the many months of discussions and the back and forwards. But in some ways, the lockdown. Yeah, exactly. But some ways the lockdown actually helped in the sense that while it delayed things, it did give us more time to have some in-depth discussions and really put a strategy and a vision in place that perhaps if we both had been flat out in a normal working environment, we perhaps would have got into the detail we've managed to get into these past couple of months. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think that the crowdfunding space is particularly interesting, but I think with a lot of the new sort of guidance and rhetoric coming out of the FCA, there's going to be a lot of change in the next weeks and months. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out. But I mean, from our perspective, in terms of LEOCrowdfunding, I'm absolutely delighted to be on board and looking forward to the future. And I'm quite a competitive person, so when I do something, I go all out. So David, big plans. Good.
That's what I like. Brilliant. I say you're going to be in later on as well, just to talk about the vision. So Here's the team as it is at the minute, just for those who get emails from different members. So I've been promoted from MD to Chief Executive Officer. I'm not sure what that means in reality, but I think it sounds a little bit better and a bit grander. So ICE is obviously the Strategic Director, which I mentioned. And then a few weeks ago, we met Avina, who is our investment analyst and investor relations person. And then there's Brenda, who looks after the compliance and is the administrator, and has been very valuable in the last couple of months, making sure the business ticks over on the operations side. So we have plans to recruit. We've been interviewing for a couple of other posts, things like social media, digital marketing, etc. So the team will grow as we go forward. So number 3, so that's 2 so far. So number 3, again, a bit of a drum roll, and delighted to announce Mr. Ian Cartmill as a member of a newly formed advisory board. So Ian is a former hedge fund manager, actively now just manages his own personal investments. You can see there 25 years across banking. He's a CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. There isn't that many of those people that qualification around, so he's certainly very specialist when it comes to the world of investment. But he's also 20 years in property, has buy-to-let HMOs in different countries. But most interesting to me was that the last 3 years particularly, he has done a lot of investment in the UK and a lot through crowdfunding platforms. And Ian actually joined our platform, I'm guessing about nearly 2 years ago now. We've had numerous conversations. He's invested in some of our deals. And those conversations led to an invitation to come on our advisory board, which he accepted. I'm absolutely delighted with that. So unfortunately, he had planned to be on the call. He lives in Spain, but he's actually been caught out where he can't get a signal. So no, John, I think he sent a message, and I know you've certainly come across Ian, talked to him a few times. So would you mind sort of on Ian's behalf, just indicating his thoughts on joining the company?
That's fine. So I've actually met Ian through one of the deals that he and I both are investor in. So he says it's a pleasure to be on the Leo Crowdfunding Advisory Board and associated with high caliber people building the business. He likes the ethos that there's a very strong focus on education. The LEO element really makes sense to him. One of his goals is to ensure the platform delivers the highest level information. He's a CFA. That is quite a specialist designation. It is essentially very common and specific to the financial industry when it comes to investments. And the idea that we're going to, as a platform, have clear disclosures and insights into each investment is part of what he's focusing on as an advisor. It should be noted these are advisory board roles. Myself and Ian, we're not part of the legal board that actually dictates the policy, but we heavily influence. And he's hoping that his efforts and others will allow investors to make the most informed and risk-aware decisions where possible.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So again, it's been really good having Ian on board. Very valuable insight, and it's a sort of input you need when you want to grow a company like Leo Crowdfunding in this space, because it moves quickly, things change, and it's good to have that level of expertise. So number 4, drum roll again, and if you were listening very carefully, it was actually just revealed about 30 seconds ago, because Mr. John Corey is actually agreed to go on the advisory board as well. So delighted, John, that you've been willing to come on sort of officially in this advisory board. You've been helping me over the years on this, and yeah, I'll give you a minute or two just to explain your background, some of your key things, and what you see in what we're trying to do in this space.
I mean, for folks that are watching, you can just read the slide, and many of you will know me, but what I think is important to point out is that there's a convergence between, at least in my world and possibly also in all of your worlds, that we have technology, and as we've seen with the virus, that we can do a lot more that way. We have real estate investing as a historical opportunity in a very big asset class, the largest asset class in the UK. And then we also now have with crowdfunding and the FCA regulations in the UK to facilitate that. So when you converge and bring together all three, that means anybody who's of legal age and sound mind for £100 or maybe a bit more, depending on their appetite, can invest and get started in their investment career. They can get started building their portfolio. They can diversify their risks. And they can lean on people like Ian and myself and others, plus other investors in the deal, to say, what about this? I don't understand what that means. Or how did that get calculated? So you can now collaborate, you can co-invest, and you can do it all from your desktop. And you can live wherever you want when you do it, just like the virus has proven.
Yeah, and what I've enjoyed working with yourself, John, is not just your knowledge about property and of course about crowdfunding, but your business background, the Silicon Valley, the actually working with Steve Jobs at Next and been involved in online. Back in about 1982, you were on the internet. So you've got a wide sort of business background corporately, which I think has been certainly very valuable to me in this last number of years as we've sought to grow a startup to then, flexing its muscles and trying to grow, but doing all that in a manageable way, so that the cash flow is important and goals are attainable. So I've certainly been very, very thankful of your input over the last number of years, and great to have you on board officially as an advisory board member. Look forward to working with you even more.
Cool.
Number
Likewise.
5. Okay, so number 5 is our clear vision for the future. So you can come back on that. Aisha, I'm keen to get some thoughts for you on this. So we have mapped out a very detailed business plan, vision for the future. I think it's clear that we have 2 main tracks of approach, one being equity deals. So we're not wanting to get involved in sort of the maybe more specialist side of dealing with debt instruments and bonds, all that sort of stuff. We're simply sticking to what you might refer to as vanilla, just mainstream equity deals. We'll do planning and then things like long-term income. So I know this is very much your speciality. I know you like development deals. So what's your observation on where the market is right now and the need for equity when it comes to property development?
So I feel there's always been a need for equity providers. And from my perspective, this sort of stems back to the financial crisis, where a lot of the providers at that time, after the crisis, they, left the market and it never really recovered in the same way. What happened since then is you've had other incumbents come in, particularly wealthy individuals in the sense of sort of family offices, and other sort of groups popping up. But in my opinion, it's never really been the same. And that presented an opportunity. I feel that there are quite a lot of players on the debt side, but in terms of there being somewhere where you can go to get your equity, where you're sort of confident, in those people in terms of being able to deliver what it is you need. Yes, there are players out there, but not many. So for me, it's a great sort of piece of the market to be operating in, and our expectation is absolutely to become, a key player in this space where people know that they can come to us. There's transparency, they will get, everything that they need. But it's not just on the sort of developer side, it's also on the investor side. That's something that I'm particularly focused on as well. For me, education is absolutely fundamental. In my old role, we were not allowed to invest client money in any asset class or in any investment that they didn't understand. So although I was the investment manager and I was the person who had the authority to make the investment decisions, if the client didn't understand it, we weren't allowed to do it. And that has stayed with me ever since. I don't believe that people should be investing in something if they truly do not understand the entire concept and how it works. So, what, as you've alluded to already, David, one of the things that we're going to be doing is focusing on that education piece, educating people in terms of the types of deals that we have, how we structure our deals, because there are going to be variations and creative things that we're doing there. I think that's going to be one of the things that differentiates us from other platforms. And it's just about making sure that the investors are up to speed and everybody's on the same page, full transparency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, excellent. And the education, I think we both share that passion of learning and educating others. And that's really what we're about. As you often say, crowdfunding at its essence is not necessarily about finding a small group of high net worth individuals to invest large sums. I mean, that's great. But the future of crowdfunding, and really at its essence, it's the masses. It's the hundreds of people doing a small bit each into deals is where you get that exponential growth. And I think that's only going to come through education. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that side of it. Now, again, an important side of education is a relationship with John and his Property Fortress. John runs a monthly event, probably one of the oldest in London, very well attended, great people in terms of the quality and the professional people that attend. And we have a relationship with John on the education side. Do you want to comment just quickly, John, just on the online training modules? And I know this is very much a passion that you share as well.
I do want to comment, but actually a slightly different direction. I want people to understand that the reason that Leo Crowdfunding is focused on raising equity is because the debt side's easy. And this is as an independent person. You can go to a lot of high street lenders, a lot of mortgage brokers. They can all arrange the debt at very attractive rates. The problem is they're going to say, so where's your deposit? Where's the rest of the money? Where's the difference between what we can lend and what you need for the project? That's raising the equity. If you're not familiar with the term equity, just think it's the rest of the cash you need to make the deal work, or think of it as this is a legal way to have a joint venture. And it's also a legal way, and this is from the education side, it's a legal way to raise your profile. You can let everybody know what you're doing, and you can actually solicit for money legally if you follow what the platform allows you to do. And the FSA wants you to go through this platform or through this process with a platform like this because they don't want to see all these random posts everywhere. Those would make it illegal. And if it's illegal when you do it, it'll follow you for years and they can investigate you at any time. So let's get real, let's get educated on what it takes to make fundraising legal. And this is a very simple, inexpensive way to do it. I like to sort of phrase it this way. For £500, you can list your deal on the exchange and see if other investors are interested. It's a very low cost way to get started.
Yeah, and I'm certainly, like all three of us, and I know Ian shares this passion as well, in terms of education. It's where we can certainly be a little bit different perhaps than some other platforms by really focusing on this, and not just lip service, but really getting into workshops and webinars and being here to educate people, which is very important. Okay, number 6, down to the last few minutes of our webinar. So we've had 5, but I think are really, really good announcements. I think they're game changing. I think they're really exciting for the industry, the convergence of the quality of people that we've now brought into this new brand. And our last big announcement for today is that we have 3 deals that are currently being prepared to be launched on our platform. We weren't able to launch any deals in the last couple of weeks because the name change was coming, and therefore we had to stall on some of our raises. But I'm going to mention just briefly 3 that are being prepared right now. So there's an equity deal that's been prepared for Plough Hill View. That's a project in Nuneaton in Warwickshire, and this is comes from very, very experienced developers, and this is well on its way. It'll probably be on the site review deal probably early next week. And I know, John, I think you had commented on this one that was quite similar to other deals we've done.
Yeah, well, I mean, for people that like to back a developer who's got a project, has planning, they're now going to start construction. So it's the physical construction phase of the overall project that you would be backing. This is similar to the last raise that happened, the Bowman Home raise, in terms of its building a number of units. I think it's 5 here. That was 3. They're both projects basically are targeting 100,000 raise. That one successfully did raise. The Bowman Home one's 100,000. And so people can look at this. If they like the Bowman Home project, they should look at this. They should compare it, the differences in the team, the location, the numbers, the detail. This is one of the benefits of crowdfunding. You can learn a lot, and you can also spread your risk by looking at different deals that have the same core strategy, but by different operators in different locations.
Yep, so this is a 100K raise, straight equity from Creation Tech, and it's been really good working with Ray and Hitesh as we prepared this, and Avina's been crunching the numbers, and I say we're about to go view deal, so you can stay tuned on this one. We then have a a project which is from one of our current case study people. So this is from Chris Cleghorn. If you remember, he was on a webinar a few weeks ago, owns a very large portfolio of buy-to-let properties. And he is going to be starting to raise funds through the platform as he seeks to expand his portfolio. An interesting model, which I'll comment on a minute, because the model that Chris is using for buy-to-let property is similar also to the next one, which is from the guys down in Target 5, Andy and Tina. Very experienced property operators down in Brighton. They've done many units. Again, Tina was on our weekly webinar 4 or 5 weeks ago, talking about the management side of managing the portfolios and the letting, which was very well received. So Target 5 have an aggressive strategy for the next 12 months in terms of high target yield HMO conversion. But both Chris's strategy and Tina and Andy's strategy is not so much buy a property and sell it on, so it's a short-term equity offering. It's designed to be more of a long-term hold, so it's like an income product. I know something, this is John, that you've been looking at in the market and feel there's a space in the current crowdfunding market for this type of a product.
So just so it's really clear, disclosure point here. So I'm actually consulting to the 3 different groups that we're talking about here, Target 5, the first one, and also YieldWise. The point on these 2, the YieldWise one and Target 5, these are buy and hold strategy. This is your simple vanilla, get invested in property, hold it for the long term, earn an income, maybe think of it as a long-term investment opportunity for your retirement, whatever you want to call it. So the buy, refinance, rent, hold, buy, refurbish, you'll notice in the HMO Target 5 project, so A, it's HMO, B, there's some conversion going on, so it's BRRR, 3 R's with a B, and that means buy, refurbish, refinance, and rent, where with the project from YieldWise, they actually tend to focus on deals that are below market value or otherwise competitively acquired, but they don't want to focus on doing lots of refurbishment. They want rent ready income almost immediately. The key is in the detail in these deals on the platform. You need to read them, you need to go through the information. But if you're looking to be in property and you're a bit busy, but you'd like to buy and hold and you'd like to have someone else's expertise, both of these companies, YieldWise and Target 5, have built portfolios over 100 properties. Target 5, I think it's 350 for themselves and for other investors. Chris has built, I think he's done 700 transactions, 108 of those are his own properties. So these are very seasoned operators. If you like what they do, great. If you don't like what they do, great. That's fine. That's the beauty of crowdfunding. But do take a look.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. That one of the great benefits of crowdfunding is it's diverse. There's different types of projects and different investors have different appetites. So it's very much a menu. You can go on the platform, register as an investor, and then there's a menu to choose from. If you don't particularly fancy a particular project, not a problem. You wait for one that is aligned to your strategy. I think that's important. Okay, so
from the Leo, 1 second. From the Leo point of view, I also want to encourage people when they look at a deal, go to the forum, post any questions. This is not just look at it, you're in or out. This is actually an opportunity to learn. You don't have to even invest. You just can go to the forum, click on it, add your question, interact with other people who are also looking at the deal. The developer or the person behind the project will comment also, maybe possibly people from LEOCrowdfunding. It's an opportunity to learn just by engaging in the conversation on specific transactions.
Yeah, very much so. So this is a snip of what the pitch page looks like. So you see there's an overview, financials, team, and forum sections. So when you've logged in, you can go onto the forums and interact directly with the fundraiser through the forum. Again, just highlighting the old regulations. So capital is at risk. Obviously, when you invest on a property crowdfunding platform, returns are not guaranteed. So just really getting ready to wrap up then. Very interesting half an hour. We've covered a lot of information. Next Thursday, John, I think what we should do is, rather than bringing on a special guest, is that perhaps the 3 of us talk a bit more about the property crowdfunding industry and perhaps some of the deep dive into some of the things we've talked about today. I think that would be interesting. Investor relations, preparing deals as a fundraiser, the different types of deals, So I think that would actually be quite beneficial for next week, and that will allow us to really highlight some of our USPs and why we feel we're going to have it be a major success in the industry and really become one of the big players. So that's next week at 10 a.m. and we look forward to those that can register. So that is literally that. If Aisha wants any comments to finish off, Aisha, you're more than welcome to have any last thoughts before we finish up.
No, I guess it's I look forward to you know, to interacting with you know, many of the investors who are on this webinar. I think just to reiterate what John says, you know, this really works when you interact with us. So please do. We're here and we're excited about the future and what lies ahead.
John, any last comments?
I'm good. Just see you in a week's time, but basically people interact with us on the forums. So.
Yeah. So listen, thanks everyone for joining. This has been by far our best attended webinar that we've done. So absolutely delighted with that. And I hope you found today valuable. If you're involved in fundraising or investing, there's bound to be some information that's relevant. So I'm looking forward to the journey. Great to have Aisha on board. Great to have John and Ian, advisory board, working with a team that we have. Really excited about the future. I think when together we can achieve big things and make a real impact in this property crowdfunding space. So guys, all the best. Have a successful rest of the week. And of course, above all in the current climate, stay safe.
Bye.